not your fault. But you have to, and by the way, you sinned. Not intentionally. It's a transgression. It's a sin in the sense that the vow has been broken. Not intentional. Here's another broken vow. Again, not intentional. But you have to then offer sacrifices in order to bring reparation. Now the sacrifices are low on the economic scale. Okay, turtle doves or pigeons, very low. Not intentional. Person just died for him. You have to start the vow all over again. Shave your head. And eventually this hair has to be shaved at the very end. Okay. Like I said, most individuals were short-term Nazarites. And here's the beauty of it. Either a man or a woman is allowed, here's how a woman can be or live as if she were a priest. To the normal priesthood, women were not allowed to be in the normal priesthood. Even if you're in the tribe of Levite, even if you're in the family of Aaron, women can't be priests. There's a simple reason, I think, for that. Just a basic reason for that. Physiologically, they can't be priests. Okay? Wouldn't work. I'll just end it with that. Okay? Leave it with that. Anybody wants to question that one later on, we can talk. But a woman could enter a Nazarite vow in which she lets her hair grow, she doesn't eat any grape products, and she doesn't allow any corpse to come around her. And she's living in this separated status. It's this holy status of being as if you were a priest. So here's this opportunity to live in this way. Like I said, we only have 2 individuals from birth. So now their mothers, in order for them to be Nazarites when they're born, their mothers must not come across a corpse, must not eat any grape products, and must not shave her head. Okay. So they have to live, in a sense, until the child is born, as if they're a Nazarite, so that nothing in utero affects the child. Okay. Long-term and short-term Nazarite vows. The point of our apostolic text was to say, here we have, this is Acts chapter 21, long after Yeshua, Jesus, is dead. They come to Paul. Paul comes back to Jerusalem. And the message that has been going around is, Paul doesn't believe that Jewish people have to keep the Torah anymore. And Paul, now, if this had been America, Paul would have held a press conference and denounced that this was the case. But in good Jewish fashion, it doesn't matter. Here's how you know. This is an example. Acts 21. It doesn't matter what you say. We don't go with what you say. We go with what you do. That's Hebraic thinking. Let's stop there for just a moment. Hebraic thinking is you demonstrate what you believe by what you do, not by what you say. Confessions can be made by anybody. What did you do? So what does Paul do? They tell Paul there are 4 individuals whose vow is coming due. And we know it's a Nazarite vow because it's the only one that requires you to shave your head. So it mentions that in Acts 17 and 21. But these individuals, for whatever reason, they don't have the sacrifices necessary to complete the vow. When the vow comes due, you have to offer, the text tells us in Numbers here, a mega sacrifice. You have to offer almost one of every type of animal, from every different type of sacrifice. Well, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of animals. For whatever reason, they don't have it. It's coming due, their vow is coming due, and they don't have the animals in order to complete the sacrifice, to come out of the vow. Even though it's a short-term vow. So Paul says, you know what I'll do? I'll pay their way. Now, that tells me this, that long after Yeshua is deceased, physically, that they're still offering sacrifices at the temple. There was not a cessation of sacrifices. The only reason sacrifices ceased was because the temple was destroyed. For 30 plus years after Christ, there were still sacrifices being done in the temple. And evidence by Acts 21, Paul goes there and offers these sacrifices on behalf of those who had entered a Nazarite vow. So here we have even, to this point, a Nazarite vow being entered into in Acts 21. Yeah.
So Rabbi Shaul, or Paul, he was a man of considerable substance then?
He must have had some serious money. Because he pays for 4 people. He goes to the temple and says, the vow is coming due, I'll be paying. And by the way, this brings up something we talked about a couple weeks ago. In the Torah, if you read Numbers chapter 6, it looks like the person who's entered into the vow, and it does, in essence it says this, the person entering into the vow has to bring the animals for sacrifice. But nothing said that another person couldn't help you. Remember, we need to keep saying this. There is the letter of Torah, and then there is the spirit of Torah. The letter of Torah is you need to do what God has asked you to do. The spirit of Torah is I and you can help other people do it too. We can work with them and pay for their way, so to speak.
Well, isn't that the whole point of Yeshua?
Yes!
He paid
for our way!
He's the spirit of
He's the spirit of Torah. He paved the way for everybody. So now he says, hey, you can help pay somebody else. If they can't pay their temple tax, Exodus 30, you can pay it for them. If they can't pay for their Nazarite vow, you can pay it for them. If they can't go into the temple, you can do it for them. It's called, here's the word, we saw it in the book of Ruth. Kinsman Redeemer and / surrogate.
Yeah.
Kinsman Redeemer or surrogate. You can have somebody. And this whole concept of surrogacy was already built into the priesthood because the priests are there on your behalf. They go in there as a representative of the people. So what I'm saying is this. We have to move our thinking beyond the notion of, this is the first wave. The first wave is, I want to keep Torah in order to be obedient to God. That's the first wave. The second wave that moves beyond that says this. How can I begin to help other people do the Torah and pay their way and be a surrogate or a redeemer for them? How can I do it for them? What are ways that I can pay it forward? And to think that way, as opposed to just thinking, how do I do it? It's great to think, how do I do it? Which is good. That's a great way to think. But then you move beyond that into beyond the letter to thinking the spirit of this, which is, because everything couldn't be written down, but to think in terms of, how do I now pay it forward to help other people do this and to pay their way and to make it possible for them to participate?
So when Paul's actions, he's saying, I am following Yeshua because I am being the spirit of Torah by paying for these people. And I am doing what he said for me to do.
Yeah, what he's doing is he's saying, look, he's validating these guys' vow that they took, which is this Nazarite vow of Numbers chapter 6. And he's saying, look, if I thought Jews should not keep Torah, then Paul should have said, I will absolutely, positively not help these guys offer sacrifices. Don't you know that sacrifices have been abolished? And don't you know that Nazarite vows are no longer necessary? He should have just come out and said clearly, I'm having no part in this whatsoever. He willingly says, you know what? He puts his money where his mouth is. I've always said this too. Give me a person's checkbook, and I'll tell you what they believe in.
And did Yeshua do a Nazarite vow? That's the whole, I won't break it.
Some say that Yeshua entered a Nazarite vow at Passover because he says, I won't drink it. I don't know. I'm still working with that one. I'm still work in progress there.
He didn't shave his head.
He didn't shave his head.
Not that he had time to.
Yeah, so working with that one. Yeah, go ahead.
So what's really the benefit of becoming a Nazarite or a Nazarite vow, and like as far as Samson taking the Nazarite vow or being a Nazarite, but wasn't he also a warrior?
Yeah, in fact, so
So did he get the benefit of the Nazarite vow, even though?
yeah, in fact, Samson, he violates his vow on every level. He picks up the jawbone of a donkey to whip the Philistines, which violates corpse. And then eventually he plays this whole game with Delilah regarding his hair. You know, what's the source of your strength, you know? And he says, oh, well, you know, if you bound me with fresh cords, you know, that would really... And eventually he tells her, look, if you cut my hair, and then she cuts his hair, and he's eventually, now, at the very end, they forgot his hair was growing back out. So they had him in captivity all this time, his hair started to grow back out. So, it's not, the hair wasn't the issue, it's the power of God, obviously.
Well, it kind of sounds like a promise between God and his mom, maybe.
Yeah, what it does is this. It says that a person will live in an exalted level of holiness, like a high priest will. That you'll live more separated, voluntarily live more separated than the average.
Which is what we're supposed to do.
So, the only ones required to do that are the priest and the high priest. God says, if you want to ramp that up, if you want to do that, if you want to live that way, most did it for a while, for periods of time, smaller periods of time, some lifetime. Because of his lifetime vow and lifetime situation with Samson, he should not have been a warrior, but he was, and that brought him to violating every aspect of his vow, which he despised to begin with. That's all right. Yes.
Is it possible for people to take a Nazarite vow today?
The only way you could take it today, the only way you could take it today, though, is if you were going to be a lifetime, because there's no way to be a short term. You have no way of bringing it to fruition. So you have to wait for the reinstitution of the temple in order to be able to bring it to fruition. You could not do a short term. If you say, well, I'm only doing it for a month, with no temple, you can't go there and offer the sacrifices necessary to bring it to completion. So only with the rebuilt temple could you. So you have to enter a lifetime and say, I'll do it for the duration of my life.
Isn't the temple necessary for if you come across a corpse? Then the temple is necessary. I thought there was some.
Yeah, you have to. That's the other thing. You have to hope that you never
come across a corpse.
Come across a corpse.
Then what happens if someone isn't?
Then you have to do the requisite sacrifices to start all over again, which you can't do. You can't push the reset button.
So then, can you really ever even enter into it if there's a possibility of that?
I would say you can't even enter into it. Most can't. You can't enter into it. My argument would be you can't even enter into it for this reason.
Yeah.
Prior to entering into it, you would have to. Everybody is corpse defiled, in my estimation. Most of us are corpse defiled. So that would require Numbers chapter 19, the ashes of the red heifer. So you'd have to have the ashes of the red heifer, do that purification, and then you can enter into a Nazarite vow. And then hope that you never came across a corpse. So without the ashes of the red heifer, Numbers chapter 19, most, I would argue, are in a state of corpse defilement to the point that there's no way you can even enter into it. Yes.
I wanted to go back to the premise of paying it forward and helping others be able to obey the commands.
Yes.
In doing that, you're also obeying the two greatest commands, loving Adonai with your whole heart, mind, and strength, and loving your neighbor as yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, good point. Yeah. I think we should seek ways to pay it forward and to help others. That ought to be an outlook. How can I help somebody else keep a commandment? And to the extent that I help them keep a commandment, it's a blessing. It's a good thing. It's moving beyond just me doing it for myself to helping somebody else be able to do it, which I think is healthy. It moves us beyond ourselves, saying, how do I move out, how do I help out here to help everybody else? Not just me do it, but me to help other people do it. Yeah.
Could there be any correlation with, as far as like when it talks about like, when you do unto the least of these, you do unto me, so as far as like
Yeah, Matthew 6.
sacrificing a goat, a lamb, some turtle doves, and giving it to the poor, you're giving it to God.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He says as much in Matthew. If you give it to them, you give it to me. And in Proverbs, he says, those who lend to the poor, lend to God. So, I think there's plenty of evidence that the people of God are representative, he's represented by them. And so that, in Acts, for instance, he says, to Paul, why do you persecute me? Paul said, I'm not persecuting you, and you're persecuting my people. That's me. Same thing with Matthew earlier on. He says, if you give it, where do we see you poor? And where do we see you naked and clothed you? Where do we see you thirsty and give you something to drink? And as much as you did unto one of these little ones, you did it unto me. So, if you don't help them, you're not helping me.
But as far as like vows and maybe offerings, could that in a way kind of replace the temple in a way, or not really? It's just something good to do.
It's something good to do. I'd be hesitant for the replacement part of it. Definitely something good to do. I have to think more about that one, but definitely a mitzvah. All right, let's go with me to page 95 for the Elena. Please stand. Page 95.